all his life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. You want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah, the Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it. Wow.
The ruling on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never going to catch us slipping. With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome to Pass the Outlet, episode 33. I'm your host, Michael Benjamin, joined as always by my wingman, Chris Patrick. Many would say Mr. Patrick is a Las Vegas lover. Chris, how you feeling? Let the people know. Is it red or black for your first roulette spin when you hit the table?
Man, you know, honestly, like, I'm a fan of both, you know, the toss up, but it's always got to be red for me with the first spin, and a little bit of inside baseball. It's got to be red, specifically red 23, but that's another conversation for another time.
Absolutely know it. It's always red 23 for the true GOAT. But here on Pass the Outlet, we break down the beautiful game of basketball. We have our sights on Sin City as the NBA Cup group stage games kicked off today. Chris is going to bring us the news from around the net like usual. And today on Pass the Outlet point guard is, some would say, an Oklahoma City legend. But if you're here with us live, watching the playback on Valley Sports Plug YouTube, or listening to playback on podcast streaming services, we love y'all. Make sure you subscribe to VSP YouTube channel, leave a like on this video, and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything going on with us here at Valley Sports Plug. But Chris, here come the Suns, man. And they're hitting the schedule grind as expected. They've gone 500 over their last 8 games, dropping 2 to Houston, but had an incredible performance in LA against the second seed in the Western Conference, Los Angeles Lakers, and a beautiful 108 to 105 victory last night in Minnesota. Quick thoughts, man. How you feeling about this Sun squad right now?
You can't not be excited about this Suns team, and I hope that wasn't like too much of a double negative. But I mean, the honeymoon period of them winning 8 and 10, it has kind of worn off. Obviously, the expectations were low. Like, Mike, we've talked about it a bunch across our many streams and podcasts here. Like, there were no expectations for this Suns team. So anything that they did positive was just going to be just that, a positive. And they've obviously far exceeded expectations. This Suns team just will not quit with Jordan Knott at the helm. I mean, scrappy victories against the Lakers and the Kings. Also, you have the win just the most recently on Monday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where you basically had Anthony Edwards not even showing up in the fourth quarter, and yet another clutch performance from Colin Gillespie. Mark Williams had 22 in that game, being the catalyst really behind that win. Once Rudy Gobert was out, they kind of exposed them and brought it into the paint and made it really dominant. I've just been really impressed with the way this team is flexible. Obviously, you see against the more formidable opponents in the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, you drop 2 to Houston, 1 to OKC, and that game against Houston where they lose 117 to 98. They lost without Houston having Alfred Şengün. They did, of course, have a healthy Kevin Durant for that game, which they didn't for their first meeting. But man, I mean, aside from obviously losing the games we're expected to lose, we've been winning some games we've been expected to lose as well. And I think that's the most important thing. Dylan Brooks has been just absolutely incredible. A 33-point performance, a 23-point performance, a 29. Like, he can get you 25 plus if he needs to. And with Devin Booker out and his yearly hammy injury or whatever it is, calf strain. We've needed someone to step up, and it's been Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams, Colin Gillespie. The list goes on. And Mike, I mean, there's just honestly, there's nothing but positive things to say about this Suns team right now. I don't know about you.
We're in love with what's going on in the Valley right now. I always love a nice little chirp before games too. We saw that Anthony Edwards took to social media with his one and only task for the day to lock up Book. And Devin Booker didn't even play. You just got to love it, man. Anthony Edwards is one of a kind. But Chris, here come the Suns. And guess what? Here come the NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder once again. I mean, we're talking about not even 2 weeks ago on November 28th, the same day as the Territorial Cup. The Suns did lose that last game of NBA Cup group play, 123-119 in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. At that point, the Thunder improved to 19-1, 10-0 at home. They are just a true buzzsaw. But in that game, the Suns were down 4 at half, down 12 heading into the fourth, but they battled to the final buzzer as they consistently have been doing this year, outscoring the Thunder 37-29 in the fourth, but come up just short behind SGA's 37 points and 8 assists. He scored 15 points in the final 7 minutes, shooting 4 or 5 from the field in that stretch as well. It was also the Valley kid, Jalen Williams' first return to action of the year since his wrist surgery, repairing a torn ligament. But man, the Suns, they continue to surprise, and they do it, it seems like, the same way. All 5 starters in double figures, led by Colin Gillespie. I mean, stop me if you heard this before. 24 points, Dylan Brooks, 19 points, and Devin Booker, 21 points and 8 rebounds. But even after losing Group A by dropping that game in Oklahoma City, the Suns thankfully beat out the Memphis Grizzlies in point differential by about 17 points to take that one and only wild card spot for the Western Conference. And Chris, they were thinking of you because they now are rewarded with the chance to go to the dance in Las Vegas. But they're rewarded with another matchup with the best team in the NBA. It really is just something you can't make up, but we are along for the ride right now. And it truly is a path to Sin City to get there, Chris. This is going to be a really, really tough matchup. Once again, going back, even after the Suns really put on a nice display. Our game against the Thunder is tomorrow, December 10th, 5:30 p.m. MST at Paycom Center. It's on Amazon Prime. If you follow our socials, we link that beautiful intro song for Amazon Prime right now. It gets the juices flowing. But Suns are 13-9 against Western Conference opponents, Chris. 14-10 overall right now. And they're 2-2 in games decided by less than 4 points. But the Oklahoma City Thunder are 23-1. They are just setting a standard. They're setting franchise records left and right. Let's start right off the top, Chris. What are your high-level expectations of the Phoenix Suns going to Oklahoma City and trying to scratch out this win coming tomorrow?
Yeah, man, I think, obviously this team is going to play to win. And I have no doubt that that's the mentality that Jordan Ott is having these guys going into this game with. However, I think the more realistic goal should honestly be to cover the spread, maybe be within 10. I would caution Suns fans. We played them close. We only lost by 4 in our last meeting here just a couple weeks ago, but don't expect that repeat performance. I would attribute a lot of that to the return of Jalen Williams, as you highlighted there, Mike. He didn't have a great performance in that game. He was shooting 3 of 12. And as you said, his first game back. So I think it was a little bit of getting him back into the mix. And I don't remember which coach said it, if it was the Timberwolves coach or the Rockets coach, but one of them said after playing the Suns in their post game, like you can't sleep on the Suns. You can't take a day off. You can't take them lightly because they're gonna make you run and work from wire to wire. And we've even seen that in a couple scrappy comeback wins that the Suns have had. And as we mentioned, a couple games that I don't think anyone thought they would or should have won, but ended up doing so. And I don't think anyone thought that the Suns would have played the Thunder within 4 in that meeting just a couple of weeks ago either. But Mike, what's interesting enough is with the way the Suns team is playing, I could see a scenario where, they do play it close again and we are right in the mix and anything could happen in this league. I mean, Mike, the historic start of this Thunder season, 23-1, is incredible, but they did have that one loss. Do you know who beat them?
I'm pretty sure it was Nico's secondary team, the Portland Trailblazers, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You are 100% correct. And yes, they didn't have Jalen Williams, but they did have a healthy Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Hartenstein, who's the other guy? The Chet Holmgren. They had the crew. They had the crew. And obviously they did a lot of winning without Jalen Williams before he came back again and with this game against Suns. So anything's possible. The Portland Trailblazers are not an impressive team by any means. Suns are 14-10, Trailblazers are 9-15. So if a team that's on paper and in the standings worse than the Suns can beat them, in theory, so could the Suns. But obviously the Thunder are rolling. But I would love it if they won, just so I could tell my wife, hey, day trip into Vegas. We're going to go watch the Suns play for the NBA Cup.
Yes, yes, yes. We already have it on our calendars, obviously with our fingers crossed, but we already know the big man in SGA. I'm not going to touch a whole bunch on him. The previous MVP, you just can expect him to drop probably 32, 6 and 5 every single night, and especially in this matchup coming up. But let's look at some of the other guys. You touched on the big man, Chet Holmgren, Chris, having probably his best season to date in his young career, 18.6 points and 8.1 rebounds. And they are thriving with the return of Jalen Williams, who even before the injury, he's been averaging 25 points per game over his last 10. But the Suns have seen that continued success just by the overall efforts and efficiency from everybody else, Chris. Let's talk about Royce O'Neal, man, a guy who I think I might have had said was going to be one of those guys that needed to be traded just with the bolstering of this backcourt and not enough room for all these guys to play. But he's been an absolute stud, shooting 42.7% overall, about 41% from three, averaging 10.8 points this year. Grayson Allen had missed extensive time, and it's great to see him back. He's third on the team in scoring this year with 16.9 points, and he's returned to his outside shooting form with 40.4% makes from the three-point line. But then we have to give love to the big man, Mark Williams. Just the energy and effort that this guy plays with night in, night out is truly special from that big man position. 13.2 points, 8.6 rebounds on the year. And he was a stud last night. 22 points, 7 rebounds on 7 of 9 shooting last night in Minnesota. And that's how these guys are going to have to continue to produce, because the Suns spread the basketball so much, it seems like. Now there are those one-on-one opportunities that specifically Dylan Brooks has been taking. You need those in this game, but this team is so unselfish, man. It's been really proving dividends at a high level for the Phoenix Suns this year. But I think the last thing before I pass it over to you, Chris, I got to touch on the injuries. Some updates came out specifically today. We know for the Thunder that Isaiah Joe, and I think this is a big one, Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be out with an ankle. So we'll have to see how that will affect Mark Williams' ability to really dominate inside. They did have some other guys listed like Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, and SGA, but they're all listed day to day. That's just kind of precaution stuff that they have to give to the league. I will not be surprised if those guys are out there and ready to go for this matchup. But for the Suns, it's kind of the same song and dance that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. Isaiah Livers and Jalen Green is still out. I don't think I've heard any update on Jalen Green yet about the reevaluation from his hamstring injury. Hopefully that's coming sooner rather than later. But the big one that obviously, when this type of player returns to your lineup, really has to start changing conversations of how you look at this game comparative to how you've been playing, is that Devin Booker is now listed as questionable. He's missed the past 2 games with that right groin injury, that yearly groin injury that Chris was referring to when we started. But Chris, let's go high level here. Keys to success. If the Phoenix Suns want to beat the best team in the NBA tomorrow on their home floor in Oklahoma City, what do they have to do to find success?
Man, I think like it's just going to be like, it's going to sound, a little cliche, but just fundamental basketball. They have to limit the turnovers. They have to play tough defense. obviously it's going to be nearly impossible to shut down SGA, and he's going to get to the free throw line. You already know he's going to get the whistle. You can play the best defense ever, and he will still find his way to the line. And honestly, I think if I'm Jordan Knott, you can't have these guys focus on any one player, because the Oklahoma City Thunder just have too many weapons. And if you double team SGA, you're leaving another lethal scorer open, and you just can't do that. So you need to have your guys understand that they have to take their assignments very seriously, and communicate is the biggest thing. But I think one thing is for sure, this Suns team is going to play hard. They're going to leave it all out there, and they're going to make this Oklahoma City Thunder team play 4 full quarters of basketball, which is something that they haven't really had to do a lot this season. I mean, it's like some crazy stat where SGA has hardly played in the fourth quarter of any games this season. And I mean, they came out strong against them last time. I believe the Suns were winning at the end of the first quarter in their first meeting. It could be wrong there. But I think a strong start and consistency throughout the game is what will help them keep this one close. And if there's any chance, man, you're just going to need your guys to show up, and Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie. And honestly, man, I think Devin Booker could really, really put this over the edge for giving us any chance to win this game. But we'll just have to see what the injury report says. As far as Jalen Green goes, we are like right at around that 4 to 6 week window where he could be starting to get reevaluated. I don't think we've really heard much about an expected date for his return, but this month I would expect him back. And then what do you do from there if you're the Suns? Do you get him into the fold? Do you have him be a part of your long-term vision? Or he's been included in a lot of trade scenarios and trade speculation, but that's mostly outside noise. I really haven't heard anything locally about him being moved. So I just think this Suns team, I mean, this is a season of experimenting, a new head coach, new players, a lot of new faces. Let's just see what we have. And so far, I think a lot of people like what they see, myself included. But Mike, I'm going to be excited to watch this game tomorrow. Nervous for sure.
All the nerves are going to be flowing because there's something to play for, Chris. That's what, for teams kind of like us, where the expectations were too low to average, if you really wanted to say it, don't take this for granted, no matter how you feel about the NBA Cup. Like, this is something that these guys are truly looking forward to. There's a couple of key components I'm looking at, and I'm kind of looking at it from the lens of Devin Booker not playing just yet, right? First and foremost, the defense has been such a key component to the success of this Phoenix Suns team so far this year. They're going to have to continue to stay physical on the switches because, like you said, there's multiple guys on this Oklahoma City Thunder team where they are dangerous with the basketball in their own hands. So they have to stay physical throughout those switches. And they're going to have to consistently kind of switch that 1 through 5. The Suns are already a little bit undermanned size-wise. They've kind of worked that within their defensive philosophy, and switching is such a key part of that. But then on the offensive side, it's still swing and action, penetrate, kick, do that great basketball facilitating to find your open shots. Another big one for me specifically, hearing that Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be out, is I want Mark Williams to be giving those touches early and often and try to get Chet Holmgren off of his game. We know Chet is a good defender, but pound for pound, he can't match up with Mark Williams. Mark Williams is too strong compared to for him. So the Suns have to continue to attack the paint. And then obviously, okay, one that I can throw in if Book is on the floor, because he's going to have some rust, especially coming off a groin injury that he's going to be a little bit cautious playing with. You're still going to have to give those opportunities for the one-on-one matchups to find those mid-range shots. We know that Dylan Brooks has been money with those this year as well, but work that within the game to keep Oklahoma City off pace. And I think the Suns are going to find themselves looking as close as they were on November 28th. And I know that, that graphic was stating that I think ESPN is giving the Suns a 16% chance to win. And DraftKings has the over-under at what? 15.5 points right now. So the odds are stacked against the Phoenix Suns, but this is where it seems like they've thrived this entire season. And it's going to be a really fun matchup once again. The craziest thing about it, though, is that the Phoenix Suns are now the only team in the NBA that are going to have to play the Oklahoma City Thunder 5 times this year. So they're going to have a lot of chances to play with the best of the best and compete against the best of the best to show if they have that mental fortitude, which they've shown that they've had to start this season. But Chris, the NBA Cup group play started tonight. Let's take a look at the schedule. Our first one on the docket was the Orlando Magic taking on the Miami Heat. Orlando beat Miami 117-108 behind 37 points from the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Desmond Bane.
Oh yeah,
The small arms. He's been a real key component for the success early for the Orlando Magic. Jalen Suggs, coming back from an injury last year, had 20 points today. Big man Wendell Carter, 14 points, 10 rebounds. They're still going to need Paolo to pace them if they want to continue to see success this year. But he had a nice little game today, 18 points, 7 rebounds, and Orlando moves on. And currently, the other game going on in the Eastern Conference is the New York Knicks in Toronto, and they are up big right now with about 10 minutes left in the third quarter. It is 77-54. Jalen Brunson had 26 points at halftime. Josh Hart in the starting lineup, helping as well in the scoring department. He's perfect from the field, 7 for 7 with 17 points. I love what the Toronto Raptors have done so far to start this year. They've been one of the biggest surprises behind Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl, 15-10 overall. And they're going to be a playoff team, but the New York Knicks are going for something right now. Then tomorrow we have our other games. Obviously, we just touched on the Suns versus OKC, but then it is San Antonio at Los Angeles. The Lakers are a 5.5-point favorite right now. And we do know that even though he returned to practice, Victor Wembanyama will not be suiting up in this one. And it is going to be a daunting task for the San Antonio Spurs. Luka Doncic is utterly ridiculous this year. 25 points, 9.2 rebounds, 9.1 assists average this year. And LeBron, for having not got that 10-point record, it broke the other day. He's averaging 29 points, 7 rebounds while shooting over 70% over the past 10 games. So the ageless wonder, Mr. LeBron James, continues to impress, even though there's more dips nowadays than consistency with him. But all right, Chris, I mean, technically there's one game going on right now. Tell me what you're seeing out of the East, who you think might come out of the East, and then give me some updates on how you feel that Lakers and Spurs game is going to go tomorrow.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think first, just taking a big picture look at this bracket, I think it's remarkable that out of the 30, 32, I always fit 30 teams in the NBA. Eight of the 30 teams made this tournament, and the Suns were one of them. I think that's awesome. That speaks to the hard work that this team is already putting in, and I think a lot Suns fans should be optimistic. I mean, Mike, far be it from me to come on here and preach optimism, especially for Suns fans. But golly, man, that's got me excited. But anyway, to answer your question, looking at this bracket, I really like in the East. I love what Orlando's doing and the young core they've got with Paolo Banchero, the surprise move for them to get Desmond Bane. I think he was kind of tired of playing second fiddle to Ja Morant, but now he gets to play second fiddle to Paolo Banchero. So I hope he's enjoying that. Anthony Black has kind of been a revelation. They're just kind of one of those like young, exciting teams. Jalen Suggs is even a pretty solid guard. Jalen Suggs, right? That's a guy. Yeah. They just have a lot of young players, and I think that's a good up and coming team, but I don't quite think they're there yet. I'm with you as well with the Raptors. I am happy for their fan base because I know they had that solo championship with Kawhi Leonard, and then he just dipped out, and they haven't really been shit since. Not sorry, but now you got Scotty Barnes and Grady Dick and some other exciting young pieces that you're really building off of. But the New York Knicks, I think, are the should be the favorite. I know they're the 3 seed technically, but I think they should be the favorite coming out. Obviously had that deep playoff run last year and came up just short. But when Jalen Brunson Karl Anthony Towns are healthy, this team is just something else. Of course, they got our favorite, our old friend, Mikal Bridges on that team, who inconsistent, but he contributes to that squad. And I do like that Knicks team. I wouldn't say they have like a special place in my heart or anything, but I don't mind watching them play basketball. I think that they're up by 18 right now. I think there's no doubt they're going to win this game against the Raptors, and then against the Magic, it could go either way. This is a team where it would be fun to watch them in a playoff matchup. I think this could go 6 or 7 games if it was a playoff matchup. So I think it could really go either way. The Magic will have the home court advantage which I think will help them a little bit, but I would still expect the Knicks to win that matchup. Just while I'm out here making predictions. But Mike, I don't want to be too long-winded to talk about the Spurs and the Lakers. I think this is a great opportunity for me to wedge in our fantasy basketball matchup this week. Mike, I had a pretty good start to the season. I think I started 3-0 or something like that, but since have hit a bit of a speed bump as I've made the unfortunate error of drafting injury-prone players, which I'm smarter than doing that, but I was hoping for something different. I took Wembanyama with my first pick. He's obviously been out a couple weeks. This would have been a great week for him to come back, matching up against you and the NBA Cup. But alas, he's not back. I drafted Zion Williamson, who's just never healthy, I got Şengün, who's been the shining bright spot on my team, but now he's out with illness. So I guess technically not injured. He'll be back sooner rather than later, but man, this matchup with the Lakers, the ageless wonder LeBron James, and the lack of Victor Wembanyama can really, I think for me, sucks all the intrigue out of that matchup. I would fully expect the Lakers to win this one. Because LeBron aside, obviously, it's funny him being the face of the franchise while Luka, Doncic, and Austin Reeves are doing all the heavy lifting and all the scoring when it comes to the Lakers. And our old friend DeAndre Ayton, who could forget about DeAndre Ayton? I actually didn't hear the soundbite, but I guess he had a pretty good post-game press conference or in locker room interview this week. So I'll have to go watch that after this, or maybe Mike can fill us in. But yeah, I think Lakers will be taking on the winner of OKC Phoenix, and I sure do hope that it's Phoenix because we can hopefully hand the Lakers another L. But yeah, obviously the big hurdle there is OKC, and we'll just have to see. But that's my 2 cents on this one. I'm excited to watch these games tomorrow.
I love it. Yeah, Chris, you got to go back and listen to that clip from DeAndre Ayton. Somebody was basically asking him about how the coaching staff said he had a great defensive effort, and he was like, "What? What defense? I don't think I did good. Like, are you sure? Are you sure?" He seemed clueless. It was crazy, but you just got to love DA, man. He continues to surprise with that. I'm honestly kind of like you. Not much to say about this Lakers versus Spurs matchup. I think Harrison Barnes and De'Aaron Fox are only going to take you so far right now. The Lakers, even though they do have a recent blemish against the Phoenix Suns, the Suns dominated them at home. The Lakers are one of the best teams in the Western Conference right now. They're paced by Luka. Austin Reeves is just incredible too, man. Rui Hachimura has been stepping up for them as well. So I think that's a no-brainer. But in regard to the Knicks versus the Magic, which is what we're going to see in that semifinals, I give the edge to the Knicks. I think pretty much because you can counterattack some of these weapons that the Magic have. Desmond Bane is going to have to, go up against Jalen Brunson, who's going to put up his own fair share of points. Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart are going to be able to go, neck and neck with Paolo on the defensive end. And then the big thing where I give the edge is in the big man position with Karl Anthony Towns over Wendell Carter Jr., who Wendell has kind of reset his career after a tough couple of years in Chicago and kind of has finally found his home in Orlando. But yeah, Knicks. And I'm not gonna say who's gonna win this OKC Phoenix game. I like that you didn't either, because I think there's a lot of high hopes that the Suns can compete tomorrow, put their best foot forward, and then really, as the pun will include, let the chips fall where they may, because the Suns have wins over the Lakers and the Spurs multiple times this year. So you like their chances to make it to the final dance if they do. But Chris, the cup is here. Your favorite time of year? I know it is, especially when we're in it. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. But now it's time to dive into the news from around the net with the social swish. So, Chris, what do you got for us today?
Oh, yes, sir, Michael Benjamin. This is the social swish. As you said there, we've got news from around the net, and I got some fun ones, and I think I got some provocative, hopefully conversation-inducing topics. But first, I do want to start with this one. This was some interesting news that broke, I believe, last week, maybe a little over a week ago. This is obviously parody. This is from our good old friends NBA Centel on X. But it does relate to some news in the real world here. This is a post. It says, for our audio only listeners, obviously we've got the image up here on YouTube, the Los Angeles Clippers statement on Chris Paul, and it shows the Clippers new seal, which I do love their new logo. It's pretty cool. And it's just this fake press release. It says, statement from the Los Angeles Clippers front office in a quote, Chris Paul was trying to win, and that did not align with our organizational expectations. Los Angeles Clippers front office, hashtag. 116,000 likes, 8,000 and 8,300 retweets. But Mike, the news, Chris Paul and the Los Angeles Clippers mutually parting ways, or them releasing him, whatever the verbiage is. As far as I know, he is still a free agent, has not yet signed with the team. He has expressed an interest that he does want to, I believe he's expressed an interest that he wants to play for a team and finish out this season. I think it was expected that this was probably going to be his last season, but maybe a little bit of a question mark there. Yeah, and then part of the news within this is that I guess Chris Paul and Tyronn Lue hadn't been speaking for several weeks. And what's funny, Mike, is when I was hearing this news, I thought of the game we were at together where we saw the Clippers. And at a point, we were like, where's Chris Paul? Where's Chris Paul? And we saw him come out of the tunnel in like the middle of the second quarter. So he wasn't even on the bench most of the game. And he was like, I think he was on the exercise bike briefly, or he was like talking to a guy on the exercise bike, talking to a few people. But he was just kind of like lingering around and wasn't really like a part of the team, it seemed like. I believe he might have played real briefly in that game because he got a quick standing O from the Suns fans. But Mike, just such a weird situation. I was curious what your thoughts were on the Chris Paul and Los Angeles Clippers divorce, if you will.
Divorce is, to put it lightly, if you want to say that. I love the parody in the NBA, Chris, the ebbs and flows of you can be great one year and then just pitiful the next. And the Los Angeles Clippers are living within that right now. This is the epitome of just an absolute tough look. You know that Chris Paul, some would argue that his best years were with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan in Los Angeles. Now they could never get over the hump, but they, what did they call them? The Blockbuster Boys? No, that wasn't right. But you know, they were high flyers, and Chris Paul was pacing that team. So he was coming back for the last dance.
Lob
you
City,
got it.
right?
There it is. Lob City.
Yeah.
Thank you. He was coming back for his last hurrah. You know, he has established his home and his family in Los Angeles. That was one of the reasons why he's been kind of sticking on the West Coast for the last couple of years to finish out his career, so he can stay as close to home as possible. And it just made sense with the way that Los Angeles was structuring their team with an older core. Let's not joke about it. But if Chris Paul was going to go anywhere and actually get playing time at this point, that was going to be it. But we know that Chris Paul is, you know, some would say the accountability police. It rubs people the wrong way, and it rubbed the franchise people at the helm the complete wrong way, including Tyronn Lue. I started seeing some other clips come out, you know, like just from joking, like somebody had said something about Chris Paul, Tyronn Lue's at the free throw line during practice, and he's like, fuck CP, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's all in good fun, but sometimes those good-natured times really show your true colors, and that's what was happening with that. And then I saw another discussion, I think, about how during one game, Chris Paul was seeing some defensive assignments that just didn't make sense. So he kind of went over to Kawhi and talked to him about maybe making this matchup or switch when the ball happened to come around in those certain type of situations. And then here comes Jeff Van Gundy, assistant coach, longtime head coach in the NBA as well, basically saying you don't have the status or approval to talk to the players and have them make adjustments without our knowledge. So it was just a recipe for disaster from that point on. And Chris Paul, in the stops that he's had, you look at Oklahoma City before he came to Phoenix, and even last year within San Antonio, he was that type of leader that was needed for these young groups to see how you really do your day-to-days, look at the game a certain type of way, and then start adding your kind of own thoughts onto it, right? But telling Chris Paul to F off, when you got multiple guys who have played 12 plus years in the league, it doesn't go the same way as it does with those younger organizations. So I could have told you that some weird stuff was going to happen with the Los Angeles Clippers. I would have said more stuff with Bradley Beal than Chris Paul. But at the end of the day, man, this is tough, because I thought this was the perfect place for Chris Paul to finish his career in Los Angeles, where he truly made his name after he left New Orleans. And this is just the worst possible way for a first ballot Hall of Famer to kind of bookend their career. So he's going to end up somewhere else, but this is bad. This is bad for the Clippers organization.
Yeah, man, you really nailed it there. So I won't say too much more on this other than it would have been a perfect, everyone thought it would be like the perfect end of his career, sail off into the sunset, have his jersey retired, go into the Hall of Fame first ballot. Like you said, he has the doors wide. Like, it seems pretty obvious based off everything you just outlined there, a lot of which I didn't know about. So that was really interesting. It seems like he's primed to go into coaching, right? And I think maybe there was some ego stuff there with Ty Lue. Ty Lue has a ring. He's obviously played a long time. He has a lot of basketball knowledge as well. So even though Chris Paul obviously is very, very smart player, very accomplished player, he doesn't have a ring. He's still a player. So it's like that, like, you have to know, like, apparently Stan Van Gundy is kind of like, you have to know your place, which I think is crazy, because like you said, he played 82 games for the Spurs, was obviously very instrumental in coaching up that young team with a young coach. They were very open to that. But it was like, see you later. But the last thing I'll say is, obviously, anytime a beloved former Sun becomes available, every fan goes on to the social medias. The Suns should sign him. The Suns should sign. But I do think that a lot of Suns fans are on the same page here. We should not sign Chris Paul. We love him, but he would not fit with this current iteration of the Phoenix Suns. If he came in in like a coaching capacity in the near future, I would be open to that. But as far as him being on the bench as a player, I don't think that would help. Too slow at this point in his career to keep up with this team. It worked for the old Clippers. I mean, Kawhi and James Harden, they want to play at a nice slow pace. Zubac, I don't think he wants to run very fast either. So that was a nice fit for him. Brad Beal is going nowhere fast. So that was a nice slow team for him. But obviously that's just completely fallen apart right in front of everyone's eyes. And man, just another weird thing to happen during a weird Clippers season, I think. But
La La Land is a special place, Chris. We shouldn't be surprised anymore.
I guess, man. Yeah, there's got to be something in the water or something. But Mike, I'll keep this pushing. I got a few more items for us on the docket. So we'll go to this next one. This comes via Reddit and r/NBA memes. We have a user, Icy-Committee 8692 is a Lakers fan. And he said, this stat is low-key overrated. And it shows a graphic of LeBron James with some text. And it says, last time LeBron scored under 10 points in a regular season game, KD wasn't in the league. Cooper Flagg was just 15 days old. George W. Bush was still president. Twitter was only 9 months old, and the iPhone wasn't yet released. Mike, this was, I believe I have the date here, January 5th, 2007. I was in the 8th grade. I believe you were still in high school. Are you feeling old yet?
Oh, I've been feeling old for a long time, but I'm wondering if this person meant to say it the other way, as this stat is low-key underrated than overrated, because the one that sticks out to me is the one right in the middle. George W. Bush was still president. You're talking about 2 terms of Obama, a term of Trump, a term of Joe Biden, and now Trump is in office again? Like, you know how long those terms seem for the American people year in, year out? Like, come on. That's almost 20 years. This man stepped onto the floor every single night and put up double digits. Now, I think there's a lot of people for certain sports that think that they can go out there and they could like sneeze a basket in if they tried. It is just not the case, especially at the highest level for any sport, man, to be honest with you. So, there's a reason LeBron James is always in those discussions for the best of all time. I Until he retires, though, I'm not trying to get into the best of all time discussion. I'm just saying I can't love him like I want to, because as long as he is on the Los Angeles Lakers, there is always going to be a little bit of hatred, because we as Phoenix Suns fans cannot align with LA teams whatsoever and truly wish them success. So that's why when the bubble happened and he got his title, woohoo, yip-de-doo-dah, because a lot of people put the asterisks on him, that's fine. You can have that type of success. But that's why this year makes me a little bit nervous, because the Lakers are pretty damn good, Chris, and they got our old boy DeAndre Ayton. So I think there's still some other teams that find themselves ahead of them. But overall, for LeBron to have the record as long as he did, do you know the exact amount of games that he scored over 10 points in? Like 2,500 something games? Something? No, that might be too many.
I'm surely I can. If you stall for like 30 more seconds.
No. I'll pass it over to you and then I'll find it. So
perfect.
Because I did my piece here, but
yeah,
underrated, not overrated. This is crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that he meant underrated. But that aside, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And I love that the go-to is always the iPhone release date, because I think it was that summer of 2007. So it was like just before. But like, I think it's so like potent because the iPhone is so deeply ingrained in our culture. And like, it's basically like if you live in the United States, you either have a Samsung or you have an iPhone. And it's like basically one or the other. Like some weird people have like the Google phone. And I'm sorry, I'm not calling you weird if you have a Google phone, like to each their own. But most people have an iPhone or a Samsung. And it's like, so that like, wow, it feels like the iPhone has been around forever, but you're telling me like LeBron, I don't know, that this comparison always blows my mind. Mike, another thing that kind of blows my mind is like we talk about the date, January 5th, 2007, that game, LeBron, the last time before recently that he didn't score at least 10 points, he had scored 8 points in 43 minutes of work, 3 of 13 field goal shooting. Cavaliers, he was playing for the Cavaliers, actually did win that game against the Milwaukee Bucks behind Drew Gooden, 31 points and 16 rebounds. Larry Hughes also had 22 points in that game for the Cavaliers. He was against the Bucks. Shooting performance of Michael Redd, who had 26, just wasn't enough. He didn't have enough help from his teammates Andrew Bogut and Charlie Villanueva, who didn't even play. Mike, those are some names. I know we have a little bit of a soft spot for nostalgia, but man, when you start listing out names like that, and Anderson Varejao and Eric Snow, I mean, man, none of those guys are in the league anymore. None of them.
Well, that's the thing. That is a completely different era, Chris. Yeah, you throw up Eric Snow. You remember the meme a couple of years ago when Eric Snow was like a college coach and he had gained like 60, 70 pounds and he had ballooned? Like, these guys that you're talking about have gone on to the different stages of their life. And LeBron James is still competing in the best basketball league in the world. It's crazy. Okay, I got the stat. It is 1,297 consecutive games that LeBron James scored at least 10 points in an NBA game. So obviously the last game was December 4th. But, just those kind of records are something to behold. You can think of, for Arizona ties, our guy Larry Fitzgerald. He has the longest consecutive game streak with catching a pass for a single team with 243 consecutive games. And that's second all time to Jerry Rice, who has 274. So there's just different levels. Talk about Hall of Famers. Those are the guys that set the standards so far and above anybody else, where you look at it and it's like, is that catchable? I don't really know. So almost 1,300 games, 10 points in a row. I don't know if we're ever going to see it done.
Yeah, and like even like with LeBron and with Larry, like it never seemed like gimmicky. And a lot of people hate LeBron, but it never seemed like gimmicky. Like he genuinely was like out there putting up 20 plus most nights. And even later, the past couple years of his career, even though he was only getting maybe 12, that's sometimes 12 points or 15 points, he was filling up the stats in other ways. He was having almost nearly double-digit assists and 5-6 rebounds. I think people, LeBron obviously has a huge ego, and there's things to criticize him for, but like, you gotta appreciate greatness at a certain level, and like the longevity and the consistency. I mean, Mike, like you said it, like there are just levels to this shit that you really just don't see. And like, there's not going to be another LeBron James for a while. I mean, I don't see any predecessor right now. And it's crazy because there always has, it seemed like, kind of been somewhat of a passing of a torch and an overlap. And like, we do have superstars in the league right now, but like, before we move on to the next, the next couple here, or the last couple, I should say, is there one player right now that you would say might be like the next generational, like Michael Jordan, LeBron James type player?
I mean, it's hard because I think you still kind of coincide those kind of guys as Americans, and a lot of the best players now, Chris, are not American. I think the closest one, as far as like putting up stats and possibly winning multiple titles and just being around forever, that start to etch themselves high within record books, you got to start with the Joker, Nikola Jokic, just a guy who continuously does freaky things for an athlete of his size and stature, to be honest with you. But I still think he's the best player in the league right now. And I can't look at somebody like Victor Wembanyama and say, yes, I pencil you in as the next 25-year guy that plays forever and wins multiple titles, multiple scoring records, 10+ time All-Star. There's only a true handful of those guys, and even some of those guys who have been around for a long time, it's just so different comparative to nowadays, comparative to what it was. So like, a lot of people want to say Anthony Edwards. I think he's on a great trajectory. I think some of it is going to come down to, where's his mentality at as his career goes longer? Is he going to be one of those guys who starts to chase a ring comparative to really set his own, legacy? Is he that kind of guy? I don't know. Those are great conversations to have, and I would love to have those when LeBron James retires. So we'll have some time to kind of put it together.
Mike, we are going to have so much time to have those conversations, to put tier lists together, to put the stats side by side. And I very much look forward to all of those future conversations we're going to have. But Mike, two more. I want to make this next one real quick because I think we're going to go a little bit longer on the last one. But I just thought this was interesting. This came across my feed today from our friends over at PHNX Suns. And it's a little breaking news, if you will, here. The Suns remain one of the top suitors for Jonathan Kuminga per Dalton J. Johnson. And Kuminga will be eligible for trade on January 15th. I did look into Dalton J. Johnson here, and he is a reporter for the Golden State Warriors. So when I saw that name, I thought it was weird because usually like people with Suns information, it's like John Gambadoro is like the main one, or one of the, the Suns guys, Dwayne Rankin, any of those guys. But obviously a source close to the Warriors is reporting that the Suns are still one of the suitors. So I think there is some maybe a little bit of smoke there. But Mike, I've been vocal in saying that I don't think the Suns should get Kuminga. I think that you're going to have to pay him a lot of money, and I just don't know really how he fits into this team and with Devin Booker and their play style. Obviously, he's a young, explosive, athletic player, but we already have that in Jalen Green, and I think that Jalen Green would probably maybe be a part of a trade. I don't think you would have Booker, Green, and Kuminga, but maybe you would. But regardless, any trade package aside, just as a player in general, what are your thoughts on the potentials for the Suns to bring him in here? I know we've talked about this before, but just your present day feelings.
Yeah, my present day feelings are, I feel like kind of the same where they've been as these rumblings continue to happen. I still don't know what Jonathan Kuminga has proven so far within his career to command a 4-year, $90+ million, $100+ million contract. I mean, if you look at what he's done this year as well, his scoring is down 3 points, 12.4 points per game. He is rebounding the ball a little bit better, 6.3 points. He's shooting okay, 43.8 points, shooting better from three from last year, 32 points. But the team has already transitioned its athleticism, right? And at a 6-7 position, I just start thinking about whose minutes he's going to have to take away that are guys that are part of the core that you are trying to build for the future. Like if you're going to trade for him, you're going to have to trade Ryan Dunn. You're going to have to trade either Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal. If I'm talking about having to trade Jalen Green within this on top of another piece and possible draft picks for Jonathan Kuminga, I'm hanging the phone down immediately. Because yes, Jalen Green is a bit younger. I don't think they came in. No, they came in the same year because this is the 5th season for Jalen Green as well. And I'm not saying that Jalen Green is leaps and bounds better than Jonathan Kuminga. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I need to have the true taste of what Jalen Green can bring to this team to see if he is a piece that we need to really repurpose into other assets. Now, where the Phoenix Suns find themselves sitting right now, Chris, is not a title contender. And as a franchise, what you should be doing all the time is rebuilding your roster and finding better pieces to create a title contender, right? So what we see now, we're happy, we're excited with, but more moves are going to have to be made. Guys that you like right now are going to have to get traded to get different pieces that fit within the culture and the true vision of what Jordan Ott, Brian Gregory, and Matt Ishbia are trying to build. So if Jonathan Kuminga is one of those guys, I just hope it's not at the price that a lot of people are talking about, because I feel like the juice would not be worth the squeeze to get this kind of guy for a 6'7", little bit undersized guy who wants to play a little bit fast, when the Phoenix Suns really need to be getting a little bit more athletic and a little bit more bigger within those power forward and backup center positions as they groom some of those other guys like Kaman Malawach and Rasheer Fleming. If we want contributors now, I don't think JK is that guy, unfortunately.
No, I would agree with you there. And I mean, he did just, I think, work out the 2-year deal with the Warriors. So he's making about $22 million a year. Yeah, I think if you're the Suns, you shouldn't be trying to take on higher contracts. And I think you've got good chemistry with the roster you have so far, kind of like with the Chris Paul idea. It's just don't mess with it. Like, you already don't, like you said, Mike, you don't have championship expectations. We've talked about it at nauseum at this point. There's no expectations for this Suns team. We're already ahead of schedule. So why would you rock the boat? I don't think Kuminga takes us to the next level, or like is going to help us get over the Nuggets or the Rockets or the Thunder. Those are teams that I think that we're not just one player away from overcoming. We're a young core developing into, like, where we got to follow the Rockets mold and the Thunder mold of just overloading us with young talent and weeding them out and figuring out who's going to stay around over time. And obviously you have your foundational pieces like Devin Booker at this point, and maybe Jalen Green, but maybe Jalen Green is also a trade piece in the near future, but we'll have to see. Mike, I know we are maybe a little bit behind on schedule, but it is important to me, for your sake, that we get to this last part of the social swish news from around the net. And this was news that actually, I mean, like, we kind of broke it on the last Pass the Outlet, but like it fully broke like within less than an hour of us finishing our last stream. And we were texting vigorously, you and I and Nico. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm bringing up here, Mike. It's the book twos. We've gotten a couple looks at it. Shoot, I should have actually pulled up the other ones first. Let me pull those up, because that was the second look. I believe this was the first look. And these are actually, this is Booker on the court. There was like a whole release, but Mike, book 2, The Rising. These are obviously Book wearing these, I believe, in game or in pregame. I really like it. You see here chapter 2 on the heel. I'll pull up some other images, but wanted to give you the opportunity to share your first reactions to seeing these.
Thank the Lord, the ankle is cut lower. It's something that I might actually be able to play in. So, a lot of people love the Book one. We've had plenty of these discussions. some point in the NBA season, and I would say probably still consistently going on right now. It is definitely a top 10 worn shoe in the NBA. It had crept into the top 5, and then by the playoffs, it was the most worn shoe by any players left remaining on the court. But it was that definition of court design plus off the court style, right? Which is the epitome of Devin Booker. He's a simplistic guy, and he started going a little bit crazy with some of the colorways, but overall, a lot of them were nods to, great Nike shoes of the past. Like we talked about the Neon 95s, the ACG Moabs. You can even talk about his last pair that's coming out here, the one out of 1996 pairs, What Does, where a lot of shoes don't do those anymore, and they became very famous from the Kobe lines all the way to the Nike SBs with Paul Rodriguez. Book is truly a connoisseur of the culture in the sneaker world, even through his minimalism. And you're still starting to see it right now with what we're getting from the Book 2, right? The Rising, just all black with a simple swoosh, has some little color hits here. But then the Phoenix, all orange, has those gradients as kind of a sunrise, go from the bottom to the top of the shoe with the flame in the swoosh as well. And he said specifically these first twos were nods to the Valley for the people that have made him feel at home for the last decade. And he wanted to give back to us, probably because the conversations we had about that first orange pair that was limited and released at Art Basel in Miami. He said, all right, y'all, I got you. But then, Chris, look up the most recent one that has dropped for the Book 2s. The Nike Spiridons, which is a classic colorway of that shoe, which is the Nike Spiridons. They actually just came back and retroed over the past year and a half, and it is kind of a gray color with a red swoosh. He's following along with what he's done within the Book 1, and it's coming over to the Book 2. Simple, sleek, and this time it looks like this shoe is truly made for the court more than anything else, which gets me super excited. As somebody who still plays basketball consistently, I wanted everything in my heart to say, yes, the Book 1s are my go-to hoop shoe. They just weren't built for me as a bigger guy, not the fleetest of foot anymore. As I get a little bit older and somebody who plays in the trenches, as you would say, as a big man, I've really been around the Kyrie 7s and the KD models. They've just fit better for big men, and specifically because of that lower cut ankle. For some reason, it's just been a better fit for my feet over the past, I want to say, 6 to 7 years. So sorry, I had to throw that in there. But this great start. I can't wait. I think we're about a month away from the first 2 pairs dropping. Then in probably another couple weeks, this Spiridon colorway will come out again. You know me, Chris, I'm always appreciative of you throwing a social swish about shoes on here so I can kind of give some background, because hopefully you learned something today about the Nikes of the past and how Devin Booker has really been spearheading just a true renaissance from shoes that were made really famous 30 years ago, and now he's bringing his own style onto those. Man, I cannot wait for these any longer.
Yeah, I know that I'm gonna get a pair day one if I can, if they're available and I can get my hands on them. I'm gonna try. I waited for the Book 1s. You actually got me my first pair of Book 1s, my only pair of Book 1s. But the Book 2s I will be getting as soon as possible. And I agree with you, Mike. These look like I actually enjoy, like, because obviously I'm significantly shorter than you, play a different style. I enjoy playing in the Book 1s. They actually really work well for me, which I'm surprised, because I usually like a mid ankle cut, and they're quite, like you said, quite a bit lower. But it works. And honestly, I've not rolled my ankle once. They're very sturdy. They have good grip. I've only played with them indoor, but that's my review of the Book 1. So Book 2, I expect to build on it. A lot of people have said that it looks more like a basketball shoe, and I'd have to agree. So I'd expect the functionality to be equal to or even greater than the Book 1. And man, like, just perfect. If this starts to be, if the Bookers start to be as good as the Kyries were, and I don't want to say better because like the Kyrie 7 is like you put me on the Kyrie 7s and like, man, that is my favorite basketball shoe of all time. The Kyrie Infinity, Kyrie 8, whatever you call them, those were great as well. But man, I mean, I usually worry about getting you talking sneakers, and now here I am just babbling and rambling. But Mike, I'm very excited for the book twos. I cannot wait for them to come out. But I know we're at the hour mark here, and we still have to get to the outlet point guard. So that was the social swish news from around the net. And yeah, you know, you guys can always DM us submissions if you want us to talk about news that you see. Put us on some news. So thank you, Mike. That's what we have today.
Yeah, send your DM to @AZ_VSP on all socials. We're always looking to dive into the news here on Pass the Outlet. Yeah, the last thing I'll say, it literally was crazy. Last month when we wrapped Pass the Outlet, like you said, about 30 minutes later, when the Suns suited up in Portland, I think that was when the announcement came out for the book twos officially, because earlier in the day they had kind of done the tease, and then Booker was out there warming up in them. So going to be a kid in a candy store here in about a month, but got to get through Christmas first before I start spending some more money on shoes, because I actually just got a pair of trophy room ones. Very excited to bust those out too. But appreciate you, Chris. And now it's time to roll into one of our favorite segments, the Outlet Point Guard, where I, Mr. Benjamin, go through my vast card collection of signed cards. And it's funny, when Chris was talking about LeBron James and all those older players like Eric Snow, Charlie Villanueva, about 5 of those 6 players that you named off, I have cards of that are signed. So they might find themselves into this segment in the future. But since we had a lot of talk today about the Oklahoma City Thunder, I thought that it only made right for us to take a look back at the big man from Kansas and a lifelong Oklahoma City Thunder player, Nick Collison. Chris, man, this was one of those guys, when you talk about 2K, I remember him. It always seemed like he was one of those bench guys that I always tried to bring in, because he was just the catalyst for consistency, I would say, throughout his entire career. But Nick Collison, you know, he really made his name during his time in Kansas with fellow Iowan Kirk Heinrich towards the end of his career, the goggle man, which I like to call him. But he was an absolute stud in college at Kansas. He was the 2002-2003 Player of the Year, a consensus first team All-American, and Big 12 Player of the Year. He led the Jayhawks to 2 consecutive Final Fours, famously losing to freshman phenom Carmelo Anthony and the Syracuse Orange in that 2003 national championship game. But he finished his college career as the Big 12 all-time leading scorer. And this card that I have here, which is also on the graphic, is an Upper Deck MVP 2003 rookie card signed by the man himself, Nick Collison, where he was taken 12th overall in the 2003 NBA draft by the then Seattle Supersonics, Chris. While Nick, he never truly popped as a pro, like I said, he was the model of consistency. He was somebody that this Thunder and Seattle organization, because he played for Seattle for about 4 or 5 seasons before they went to Oklahoma City in 2008, 2009, but spent 14 seasons with that organization. But these are some of the best stats I have here, Chris. So Collison's undoubted best game as a pro was on January 9th, 2007, when he had 29 points and 21 rebounds in a 113-102 loss to, who do you guess?
The Phoenix Suns?
The Phoenix Suns. And his second best performance of his career. Another game, I believe it was in 2010. He had a season high, 19 points and 8 rebounds in a 120-113 loss to the Phoenix Suns. So there's just a lot of ties to the Phoenix Suns. But Nick had an incredible college career, like we talked about. His number 4 jersey was actually retired by Kansas on November 25th, 2003. So like he was leaving school, they were retiring him immediately. And then the same thing on January 12th, 2019, just a few months after Collison had announced his retirement from the NBA, the Thunder announced that his number 4 jersey would be retired on March 20th of that year, becoming the first number ever retired by the Thunder organization. Even though his NBA stats aren't crazy, you can see, averaged about 5.9 points, 5.2 rebounds in about 20 minutes. He is just a pro's pro and had the epitome of a career that anybody would ever want, playing in the highest profession possible. And right after he retired, he joined the Thunder in the front office as a basketball operations representative. Then in 2021, he was promoted to the position of special assistant to the executive vice president and general manager, who I think is Sam Presti. And he is now an executive that has a championship, as he got his first one last year with Oklahoma City as well. Wow, Chris. I mean, this is going to be similar to most of the, the outlet point guards that we do, where it's going to be like, when was the last time I thought about this guy? What do you remember about Nick Collison, man?
Oh, I mean, Mike, you really nailed it. Like, just a consistent big man. I mean, when you told me that this was your pick and we were kind of talking about it in show prep, I was like, man, just like the quintessential like role playing big man. Like, you didn't really rely on him to be your starter, but you knew you could count on him coming off the bench. And Mike, it's funny, like you mentioned 2K this time, which is funny because I said last time that I was going to be the one who always brought it up. But you're right. I mean, I've talked about it before. During the Suns' dark days, when I was still playing 2K, I would use the Oklahoma City Thunder as my go-to team because I love Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, exciting young team, and they weren't like the evil Warriors or the Lakers, so I could get behind them. But justifying that aside, I'm looking at his history of his 2K stats because yes, there are websites that keep track of this, and you called him, I think, the model of consistency, right? And it's reflected in his 2K ratings when he comes into the league with a 70, and then in order 75, 75, 74, 75, 74, and that's basically his entire career. He's like between 70 and 75 his entire career, and never goes above 75. But like, if you know 2K, like, that's a role player. That's a role player you want. His contract's not going to be very much, but 2K aside, I'm going too long on that. Nick Collison, man, that's a name like you just know, like you hear it. He had a nice long career, hung around, like you can see in the highlights here, man, like does what he needs to do. He can pass, he can score, he can rebound, and at 6'10", like that's all you really want from him at the end of the day. It's funny you mentioned his college career. Shout out Stephen Miller. I'm sure he loves himself some Nick Collison as a Kansas Jayhawk fan. But I didn't know this, Mike, until literally just a few minutes ago. Collison appeared on the cover of 989 Sports video game NCAA Final Four 2004 that was released in 2003 for the PlayStation 2. I never played that game, but obviously that speaks to his success in college. And like you said, right out of college, reaching those accolades, being on the cover. Man, Nick Collison, man, love that guy.
Yeah, dude. And I'm going to try and pull up his Kansas Jayhawks highlights because, that's where he got his notoriety. Like I was talking about, you could think about guys like Tyler Hansbrough, right? Who did play for a handful of years in the NBA. Was drafted to Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, but he was just a different animal, a different beast at his time in Kansas. Like we said, all those different accolades, but sometimes, you peak a little bit with your athleticism for some guys. And that was truly the case for his dominating play when he was at Kansas. He was a guy who could get any shot that he wanted within 8 feet of the rim, was truly consistent with those small jumpers and hooks, and had some athleticism right around the rim. And, with that bigger frame, it led Kansas to a lot of success. But when you go to the NBA level, everybody is that kind of player with that type of athleticism or better. But it is a true testament to how talented he really was and how he adjusted his game. That's always going to be something that I will praise for these guys that spent year upon year within the league, the best league in the world, and were contributors. I mean, you saw those highlights from his time with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was a key guy in there on their NBA Finals run when they matched up against the big three, the vaunted three of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. But he was holding his own and helping that young core of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden go to heights they hadn't seen yet. So there is an absolute reason why he has his number retired from multiple places, including Kansas. And now, dude, like that has to be the highest honor ever. To be the first ever Ring of Honor or retired person for any kind of sports franchise, where it seems like Oklahoma City is on its way to a dominating run for a couple of years that we look forward and we can't truly see the cliff or the end of with the amount of draft picks that they have moving forward. To be the first of ever, that's an incredible honor, and it is a true testament to truly what kind of overall person and player that Nick Collison was. So blast from the past, man. Talk too much about the Thunder today to not dive a little bit into Nick Collison. Man, that's all we got for the Outlet Point Guard today, Chris. Phoenix Suns take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow in NBA Cup group play. We're crossing our fingers for a great performance from guys like Colin Gillespie, Dylan Brooks, and we'll see if Devin Booker makes it back. But Chris, that was the end of Pass the Outlet episode 33. Got to pass it over to you to give the people anything else you got on your mind for tonight, and then we'll take us home.
Yeah, man, Mike, I had a lot of fun as always. I could go on for hours and hours talking about basketball and the Phoenix Suns, and man, I love the shift in the outlet point guard and going over those old blasts from the past. And man, Nick Collison, brother, wow. Just I don't know, guys. As it gets to the end of the year here, I'm always so grateful to be able to do this. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really excited for the year ahead. We're gonna, have our yearly meeting where we put our heads together, kind of plan out the whole year. We've done that a little bit, but I know I say this every year, but I'm excited, guys. We only want to keep doing things bigger and better. The schedule's still a little rocky, but you might not see much of us the next couple weeks. I think we have a week off planned, but whether it's in the next couple weeks of the new year, we're going to pick back up with our streams every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Once a month, we'll put out the Heat Check podcast. But Mike, one last thing I did want to do, if I could, while I had the stage here real quick, I did want to shout out my friend Levi and his band that's based out of, oh my goodness, ruined it. Based out of Los Angeles, California. So shout out Septa Coda. They put out their very first music video this last Friday for their song Thrasher. They're a post-hardcore band, like I said, out of LA. It's really cool. Levi is the lead singer, and he actually made the logos for Valley Sports Plug, our current logos. So shout out Levi. If you got YouTube, go over and check out Septa Coda and their new song Thrasher. Show them some love. They are friends of Valley Sports Plug. But Mike, always a pleasure, never a chore. I appreciate you, brother. This was a lot of fun as always.
Appreciate you, Chris. Yes, shout out Levi. Go check out Septa Coda. That's what we're here for, man. We're a family over here at VSP, and once you become part of the family, you're kind of stuck with us to the end of it. So, we have a lot of family members who have been here specifically on Pass the Outlet, like Reggie, who was doing his clothing brand, Stephen Miller, who's doing his new hot sauce brand as well. We'll have links in the descriptions for a lot of those things. And that kind of goes into what Chris was talking about earlier, is if you got something that you want us to dive into, can be the same for the outlet point guard. If there is that random player between, I would probably say 2000 to 2010, there's a chance that your boy might have a signed card from them, and we'd love to talk about them. We're always looking to see what the people want, especially with such a niche market as Arizona sports. Pass the Outlet is a great outlet, as I can say, to dive into the broader aspect of basketball and talk more on a national stage. But everything else we do within BSP is truly Arizona sports based. But who knows, 2026 might bring some other things alongside for the ride. But Chris, it's always a pleasure. Last time, we appreciate everybody who watched live, listening back on playback, watching the playback on YouTube, or listening on podcast streaming services. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube page, Valley Sports Plug, and follow us at AZ_VSP on all socials. But until next time and until 2026 from Pass the Outlet, I'm your host, Michael Benjamin. That's Chris Patrick. We'll see you guys next time. Go Suns!
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ball is life, plain and simple. You know, ask any baller. If you know, you know.
The game has changed, but it's still the same. If you want it, go get it.
Shazam!
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. The shot on Elo. Ah! The Bulls win! They win it!
Mike, you're honestly telling me that he's top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of all time.
No question about it.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it. Wow.
The ruling on the floor is made basket.
You know, one thing's for sure. Over at Valley Sports Plug, you're never gonna catch us slipping. With the first overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select